Welcome back to the bulletin. Oil marketing companies say they would pass on the full cost of the recent increment in the energy sector levies to consumers. Some of the oil firms today started reviewing prices at the pumps. This was after the National Petroleum Authority directed them to apply 20% on each litre of diesel and petrol. We hear from the Chief Executive of the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, Kweku Ajmanjia, in a bit. First, this Business Desk report.
Sources say the National Petroleum Authority last Friday directed various oil marketing companies to start applying the revised energy sector levies. Per the communication, each oil marketing company was expected to add 20 pesos to each litre of petroleum product. This should mean that a litre of petrol and diesel would be sold at 5 cedis 39 pesos from the current price of 5 cedis 19 pesos. It should also mean that a gallon of petrol and diesel could be selling at 24 cedis 25 pesos. Oil marketing firm Shell has taken the lead by increasing each litre of petrol and diesel by 19 pesos effective September 1, 2019, resulting in the service stations around the country adjusting their prices as displayed on their boards, as super goes for 5 cedis 38 pesos and diesel for 5 cedis 38 pesos. However, Joy Business is learning that other major oil firms are expected to review their prices later today. A kilogram of LPG should also go up by 8 pesos. Some of the oil marketing companies have told Joy Business that it might be difficult to absorb the expected increase. This is because its margins and profits have not been that good due to the increased competition in the sector. There are currently more than 100 oil marketing companies operating in the country. Most industry players will be looking up the industry leader, GOIL, as to whether it would increase its price or it may absorb it, a move which will influence others. Joy Business is also learning that prices could have gone down if it had not been the application of these levies as announced in the supplementary budget. The development could lead to some marginal increase in the cost of living, and some transport operators may be forced to increase their fares as a result of this development.
So like you heard in that report, because of intense competition in the sector, majority of the oil marketing companies may not absorb the cost. But Chief Executive of the Association of Oil Marketing Companies tells Joy Business they can no longer prevent consumers from paying for the real cost.
To the taxes, which was mentioned mid-year by the Honorable Minister for Finance. And, as a practice, before we put in the pricing with the taxes, we need to have parliamentary approval of the taxes and the President's assent. And we only had the letter from our policy implementer, MPA, who is our regulator, on Friday for us to effectively start implementing the taxes from 1st September.
But couldn't you have absorbed the increase?
No, there's no point. If I'll tell you, even without the taxes, we're having under recoveries of about 42 million every month from the OMCs. So you see, the OMCs are not pricing what they are supposed to be pricing, and it's really hurting them. And now when you have the taxes, instead of taxes like this, the effect on it is that we need to, one, the price of fuel will go up. Even at a point where we have this window, we have an SRF being lower for petrol, SRF being lower for diesel. But we need to put the taxes on, and it's still going up on that score.
But some think that 20 pesos is too much.
On the taxes? Yeah, but I have issues with the fact that the disparity between the diesel and the PMS. I would prefer the taxes being more on the PMS than the diesel, because diesel is what we use for trotro, farming, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
But the question too is that even though there's deregulation, there's a tax on this, and when you look at the price, the world market, there seems to be some reduction. Is there any?
Oh yes, for this window we are seeing the price drop of the SRF. If, for instance, the PMS, the average SRF was 290. What I mean, 292 cedis 90 pesos. Now it has come down to 2 cedis 77 pesos, averagely. Then we have that of this one, diesel was 313. Now it has dropped to 309. That's 309 pesos. LPG was also down.
So we're going to see these reductions?
So you see, because this window is there.
I mean, the next price window, are we going to see this also?
What's happening? The next price window, I can't tell. It's because of the way market, the economics, the dynamics which do the way the market. So it makes it very difficult for you to project. If I can project the prices, I'm sure I'll not be standing here.
Meanwhile, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC Ghana, has called on government to reverse the recent hikes in fuel taxes. Instead of imposing the energy sector levy, it is asking government to rather check fuel smuggling, which accounts for over 17% of all fuel sold within the country. Currently, it says consequently, government is losing 1/5 of all petroleum taxes and revenues, which it may have gained.
Revenue. Then the government is missing the point altogether, because there's a clear evidence of a lot of revenue allowed to go through individual pockets because of this fuel smuggling situation. So today, every 5 liters of fuel you buy, 1 liter is illegal fuel, which means that
which research?
If you look at what we've published over the past 4 years, what Seaboard has published over the past 4 or 5 years, what the NPA itself has calculated the past 4 or 5 years. NPA puts last year's figures around $200 million. That's about 1.1 billion, right? We had our projected figures around 1.6. Seaboard had their figures around 1.4 billion. Revenues lost to the state that we should have collected from the petroleum sales within the country. We let these revenues go, only to go back to the Ghanaian trotro taxi driver, the Ghanaian teacher, the Ghanaian nurse, doctor, ordinary person, and say, we need to recoup 300 million. Whereas 1.6 billion is going into private pockets because of the fuel smuggling syndicates. We have said that the president should step in and stop any senior government appointee or person involved in this fuel smuggling. If that is done today, tomorrow there may be a certain price parity across pumps. But so long as you allow people to just push fuel through without taxes, without it being tested, without these fuels being accounted for properly, what happens is that the consumer is at risk because the fuel is not tested. What happens is that the government loses that revenue because the government cannot even trace where the fuel came from and how it's being sold on the market. Clearly, if it is the issue of revenue, there exists a current revenue stream that the government should be able to generate more than enough without increasing taxes.
Well, one of the questions we asked Duncan Amwa was about deregulation, whether or not it has helped in cushioning consumers. He says it hasn't. And so we've been asking you in our poll today whether you think that deregulation has been useful in determining fuel prices. There you can see the results tonight. 20% of you saying, 27% of you saying that it has, 73% of you saying it hasn't. We are still early days yet in the poll. We have some 6 days more before it ends. But currently, this is what you people think. Majority of you thinking that deregulation has not helped in determining or cushioning you as consumers. We'll see how things pan out in future. But away from fuel prices, Ghana's earnings from non-traditional exports witnessed some marginal increase for last year. It went up by 10% to hit $2.8 billion ending 2018. The increase has been attributed to an increase in demand for cashew nuts by European countries and Vietnam. Ebenezer Sabaté has this report from the launch of the 2018 non-traditional export statistics.
Non-traditional exports are said to be those other exports apart from the traditional commodities like gold, cocoa, bauxite and timber. They rather consist of 3 subsectors which include agriculture, processed and industrial arts and craft. The agriculture sector led the growth with more than 34%, followed by handicraft and processed goods respectively. In 2018, the non-traditional exports contributed about 19% to the national exports earnings for the country. Managing Director of the Ghana Exports Promotion Authority, Efwa Sabi Asare, explains what this growth means to the sector.
It means a lot, and it means even more for Ghana because when exports go up, it means it's going to help our economy. Our city is going to be stable, and we will not have to, be shaken by what happens, and then our money is depreciating and all of that. So when exports are going up, we are so excited. As I'm standing here, I'm so excited that I'm even lost for words, as you can see. But that is what it is. We have gone up by 10%, and it is no mean achievement. A lot has been put into getting to where we are today.
Despite the growth, there was a decline in processed cocoa, tuna fish, and pineapple. However, she assured that measures are put in place to revamp their growth.
Pineapple, you'd realize that we have started giving out, and this we started doing in 2017. We will be reaping the results very soon, and hopefully you would not see this in 2019, because we've given a lot of the pineapple suckers out. By the end of December, we would have given 13 million out and more. So this is another strategy that we have taken to shore this up. Also, you would not see pineapple going out as pineapple, because we are processing it, adding value to it. So it's going out as juice, among others. So you would not see it going out as pineapple in its whole form, but as pineapple, dried pineapple, pineapple juice, pineapple made into something.
The statistics by the Export Promotion Authority also show that the European Union is the largest receiver of exports from Ghana, with a value of more than $1 billion for the year.
Expect to see sorghum and sesame added to the list of food commodities traded on the Ghana Commodity Exchange this month. Speaking to Joy Business, the CEO of the Ghana Commodity Exchange, Dr. Kadri Alpha, revealed that introducing the two new commodities will create wealth for farmers.
From the Ministry of Food and Agriculture show an increase in sorghum production from over 50,000 hectares in 2017 to around 72,000 hectares in 2018. Meanwhile, sesame production has also improved, especially in the northern part of the country, as some in the region have touted it as the new cocoa. Managers of the Ghana Commodity Exchange, having discovered the potential of these two crops, are poised to add them to the trading platform this month of September. Dr. Kadri Alpha is the CEO of the Ghana Commodity Exchange.
In the month of September, we are likely to see sorghum and sesame. Sesame is a crop with huge potential. We know that it has also helped the farmers to be able to diversify, their portfolio of their revenue stream. So a farmer will probably have maize and sesame. The sesame is a commercial crop with high value. That will also increase their overall revenue because they have maize, they have sesame. Sorghum is also a very important crop. Guinea consumes nearly about 30,000 metric tons of sorghum, and recently we also found out that sorghum can be used by the poultry industry. So there is a huge potential there, and these are commodities that the exchange plans to bring on. The exchange, our vision is to develop value chains. We develop value chains. So in Ghana, for instance, sorghum, you look at sesame, the production is about 6,000 metric tons, but we believe that if the farmers can get good markets for them, then they can cultivate more and then and increase production, and that would create enormous wealth for them. I mean, in the Maghreb countries like Tunisia or Algeria, for instance, there's a huge demand for sesame. So we are taking advantage of the free trade agreement that has been in Africa here to get our farmers to take advantage of it.
Established in November 2018, the Ghana Commodity Exchange has provided a ready market for some food commodities by linking buyers to sellers. It trades in maize, soybeans, and recently added rice. For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo reporting.
Some agric-related stories still. Government's new agric policies like the Planting for Food and Jobs are set to be adopted by other African countries. This was made known at the ongoing Leadership for Agriculture Forum put together by the African Development Bank and philanthropists Bill and Melinda Gates in Accra. Speaking at the event, Agric Minister Usu Efriakuto highlighted the need for African governments to give greater attention to the sector.
So the original projection that we are going to target 750,000 farmers for 2019, we had to quickly revise it to 1 million. And as I speak to you, we are on course to exceed the 1 million beneficiaries out of the 3 million households in Ghana. So the program is progressing very well, and I'm happy to say that that's on the food crop sector part of it. We've launched 2 more programs this year, that is the Planting for Export and Rural Development, selection of 6 tree crops that we are going to use to diversify away from cocoa. Ghana's agricultural economy is a monocrop economy. We've relied on cocoa for 130 years. We want to change that. And this is the instrument with which we are changing the landscape. And we are involving for the first time the local political administration, that the district chief executives have now become the tool by which we are multiplying seeds given to them to turn into seedlings, and then distributing these seedlings free of charge to the farmers, and it's very, very popular. Farmers are queuing in front of DCEs looking for seedlings of these crops to plant.
Meanwhile, Director for Agricultural Development at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Nick Austin, has challenged all African economies to prioritize agri as a tool for developing their economies.
We see tremendously strong evidence from the African continent of the effectiveness of growth of the agriculture sector. We also see that in places in Asia, places like South Korea, Vietnam, China, that have demonstrated by focusing in a committed way to smallholder farming, that can provide a strong platform for sustainable and broad-based growth. The evidence from these countries is clear that capitalising on economic potential requires one common element, and that's government leadership. And that's why the event today is so important, and that your participation today is so significant. Because it's through government leadership at all levels, across multiple ministries, that effective agricultural development, agricultural transformation, rural transformation and structural transformation can occur. That's why the Foundation's own investments in agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa.
You're watching Business Live. In other news tonight, local businesses have been tasked to improve trade among themselves, even as Ghana gears up to host the Secretariat of the Continental Free Trade Area at the 3rd Accra Chamber Business-to-Business Networking event here in Accra. Regional Chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, Nana Ajinim Boateng, explained that even as trading with other African markets was needed for economic growth, increased domestic trade goes a long way to boost volumes and make indigenous firms, especially SMEs, much competitive. There's more in this report.
The chairman of the Accra Chamber, Nana Ajinim Boateng, explained that even as trading with other African markets is needed for economic growth, increased domestic trade goes a long way to boost volumes and make indigenous firms, especially SMEs, much competitive.
Domestic trade is very crucial in Ghana since now the gates have been opened for more businesses within Africa to come in and for Ghanaians to also go out there. It's very, very crucial that we build a capacity of domestic trade for us to take advantage of the continental free trade.
Taking his turn, Executive Secretary for the Ghana International Trade Commission, Frank Ajikum, explained that a framework is in the works to deal with dumping and underpricing as Ghana preps up to host the much talked about African Continental Free Trade Area.
People come in with subsidized goods from their countries. And so by the time the goods get over here, they are already cheaper than what you are selling. And therefore that undercuts your efforts. The GITC has been set in place, the Ghana International Trade Commission has set by the government for the past 2 years to look into these matters, because the WTO itself, who is the champion of free trade, does give us the avenue that where we are able to investigate and realize that a product coming from some country to this country has been subsidized by their home country and therefore makes their products cheaper than what you are doing, that is undercutting your efforts. So you are able to raise measures to counter that. So that is why we are here.
The 3rd Accra Chamber Business-to-Business Network event in Accra is targeted at businesses on all ladder of economic performance. Highlights of the event included the exhibition of products and services, establishment of partnerships and joint ventures, as well as networking among representatives of participating member firms and sharing of business ideas.
Now, government says it has made the required financial provision to accommodate an increase in the national minimum wage. The National Tripartite Committee, made up of government and organized labor, have announced an increase in the minimum wage. It is going up by 11% to 11 cedis 82 pesos. Considering government's rising wage bill, there are fears the state could struggle to pay workers, and especially because of the challenges with revenue mobilization. Speaking to Joy Business, Deputy Finance Minister Abnor Sarah assured there was no cause for alarm.
What happens is that it is not just the minimum wage that is negotiated at the NTC or at during every year. We also look at the base pay. The base pay is how much government workers, the increment that government workers get yearly. And for the base pay, it went to 12%. So government will make provision to the full extent of the 12% that we have accepted to give to workers as increment in salaries for 2020.
It is coming at a time when there's so many calls that government wage bills and all that is getting high. When you look at our collections, most of them goes into paying of salaries, compensation and all this. How do you justify that?
It is not a matter of justifying. When workers work, they are supposed to earn salaries. It is also up to us to make our revenue collection systems efficient so that we can increase the revenue and so that when workers work and whatever is due them, we are able to pay them. So this is how we're going to go about the whole thing. Government will make the provision, and whatever we do as workers, once we work, we are expected to be paid our salaries. Government will do everything possible to maximize the revenue so that we do not go about borrowing to pay workers, but rather it is our productivity and the revenue that will come about as a result of the work that we do and the taxes that we collect, we will be able to use to pay.
So it's going to be the 2020 budget?
Yes, it is going to start from the minimum wage increase, and the base pay increase is going to start from January 2020.
Now, the director of ARB Apex Bank, Kojo Mata, says the Bank of Ghana is committed to helping rural and community banks deliver on their mandate. He's been dispelling rumors that the central bank wants to shut down some RCBs. Bismarck Awusa has more in this report.
Recently, the ARB Apex Bank released a statement indicating that the Bank of Ghana had no plans to withdraw the license of some operating rural and community banks. According to the director of ARB Apex Bank, Kojo Mata, the regulator has completed the cleanup exercise and will not descend on rural and community banks, as is being maliciously circulated. In an interview, Mr. Mata urged depositors to refrain from panic withdrawals.
We issued a press statement because this statement is not true, that Bank of Ghana is coming to or descending, so to speak, on the rural and community banks. What Bank of Ghana said in their notice was that they are going to work with ARB Apex Bank to strengthen the rural banking sector, to reposition the rural banking sector to better serve rural economic development. So I want to use this opportunity to assure the general public, and for that matter, customers of rural and community banks, not to panic and rush on the banks to withdraw their funds.
He's however called for investigations and legal action to be taken against those found culpable for creating fear and panic.
I wish it would be possible to investigate. We can forward the tape or the messages to the investigative authorities. If they're able to come up with something, we'll be very glad. And this thing must stop. So I'll be glad if the culprits, the people behind this are apprehended, and it's not a good thing to do.
The ARB Apex Bank is the supervisory institution for rural and community banks spread across the country. Bismarck Awusa reports for Joy Business.
Businessman Dr. Papa Kwesi Nduom is taking steps to again assume ownership of his savings and loans company, that's GN. He's filed an application in court seeking to overturn the Bank of Ghana's takeover. George Rafe has more.
Based on the application, Dr. Nduom is asking the Human Rights Court to reverse the Bank of Ghana's revocation of the license of GN Savings and Loans and also stop the Ministry of Finance and the Attorney General and the Bank of Ghana from taking over the management of GN Savings and Loans Company and disposing any assets of the company. Dr. Ndum in the red argues that the company wasn't bankrupt as claimed by the Bank of Ghana, but rather it was the inability of government to clear its debts amounting to 2.2 billion Ghana cedis that affected its operations badly. He maintained that if these debts were cleared, GN Savings and Loans Company might have not gone through this challenge. But sources close to the Bank of Ghana have maintained that they stand ready to defend their actions because this was taken in accordance with the law and the regulations covering the supervision of financial services in the country. However, Joy Business is learning that Dr. Ndum's approach to get the case addressed in court might be a wrong avenue. This is because this is clearly an insolvency case, and Act 930 states that such should rather go for arbitration rather than the law court. Dr. Ndum is the second individual after Dr. Dufour to challenge the Bank of Ghana over the revocation of their licenses to operate a financial institution. Well, let's wait and see how things will pan out.
We definitely wait to see. And that's it for Business Live tonight. There's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. There you see in the background, we have the latest stories from there, including India announcing a series of state-run bank measures to strengthen lenders. Also big on Joy Business. If you could scroll up, the petroleum prices increased as OMC supply revised energy sector levies. Of course, you can get all our bulletins just in case you missed out on any of them right there, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Darryl Kyle. Thanks for watching. We are back same time tomorrow.